Hi, I'm Andy Schmuckler, a guy whose life's work has been about identifying the forces at work in our civilization that are so destructive that they threaten even the survival of human civilization, which I show in that book back there, The Parable of the Tribes, was an inevitable consequence of our breaking through into the path of civilization some 10,000 years ago. But right now, it's our immediate drama in America that seems to be capturing so much of my attention because the situation has deteriorated so badly that a lot of people I talk to think that we are actually about to lose our democracy. So that's what I'm mostly talking about now in various forms. Most recently, for example, about the big deal that was made about the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. A story that needed to be attended to, but not the huge significance that was being made of it. But in particular, we could start this particular short video with recognition that the Republicans immediately seized upon it and tried to blame President Biden for inciting it because he's been so critical of Donald Trump. And then President Biden went on to be interviewed on NBC by Lester Holt, of whom I've never had anything particularly negative to say. But now I'm wondering, what kind of intelligence does he bring to the table when he comes? He kept on pressing Joe Biden about lowering the temperature, as if there's a problem with him telling the truth about what his opponent represents. Joe Scarborough was properly astonished and outraged at the nature of the questioning that Lester Holt kept on subjecting President Biden to. Like, shouldn't he stop what? Telling the truth about what the choice the American people have to make? That's not incitement. That's how democracy is supposed to work. And we are at a point where we are on the verge of electing in just a few months a leader and a party that are more clearly contrary to the American institutions that we have, that they are always have to take an oath to protect, than anything we've ever seen on the American political stage. This is a battle between essentially democracy and authoritarianism. I prefer the word fascism, but that is the nature of the choice. And if we're going to have an election, those who would protect democracy from being defeated and destroyed by fascism have a responsibility to tell the American people what they need to know about what the alternative is. That this is a leader who has committed crimes, a leader who has said he is their retribution, who's going to gut the federal government's ability to be the servant of the people and make it into the servant of himself, and a whole bunch of other things in that 2025 project from the Heritage Foundation, which is tightly wedded to Donald Trump at a number of points. This is what the American people need to know. This is the task that we have as Americans right now, between now and Election Day, to increase the number of people who recognize the nature of the catastrophe, not only in terms of the loss of American democracy, which is the biggest thing, but also the loss of a leader of the free world, that the world would suffer. And the Europeans are definitely on edge about losing their main protector since World War II to somebody who has a greater affection for the fascist dictator in Russia who invaded Ukraine and threatens to invade NATO countries as well. There is no need for Biden or whoever the Democratic nominee turns out to be, another issue altogether. To dial down the rhetoric, it needs to be as truthful and as profoundly impactful as possible. Not to incite violence, but to persuade the American people to reject the fascist alternative that's being presented and now looks likely to win. Office holders take an oath to defend and protect the Constitution. A look at the lawlessness that's taken over the Republican Party and under the leadership of a man who's committed almost a one-man crime wave is contrary to the rule of law that this country has always had at its heart, to establish that power comes from the people up, not from the unchecked power of the leader down. That's really the nature of the choice, and we need to deliver that message as powerfully as possible. And I don't know what was with Lester Holt that he doesn't recognize that. I don't think of him as a stupid man, but how obtuse can you be? There's a difference between telling the truth about the choices that we make in a democracy and the incitements to violence that are well documented as being part of the scene in this Trump leadership and this Trump-led Trump party. If you can't see that distinction, please get off the stage. We need clear talk. I don't know why Americans have been, in a sense, so slow in recognizing this fascist force that I've been commenting on since the early 1990s, and particularly since 2004. If you want to see the record of how I saw this coming and how liberal America has failed to dial up the intensity of the critique when Rush Limbaugh and Newt Gingrich were poisoning the minds of the American people, when W was exploiting a national crisis for purely partisan purposes, representing the Democrats as soft on terror, and using terrorism to essentially turn off the intelligence of a lot of Americans because fear has that effect. And acting illegally with the torture memo and the torture that it was used to cover up, to immunize a president for whatever he might do through a really disreputable means. And then a party that refused to respect that Barack Obama was legitimately the president of the United States and had been hired by the American people to do a job, and therefore, across the board, obstructionism is simply not acceptable. And then you get to a point where the Republican base has been so poisoned that they can look at a guy who's exactly the opposite of the kind of person the folks on Mount Rushmore would tell us we should entrust the powers of the presidency to, and they say, yeah, he's our guy. And here we are in 2024. And liberal America has awakened to this thing that's been rising, that's been taking over a once respectable political party. And we got Lester Holt buying the Republican, nothing they say has any necessary relationship to the truth. That's not the purpose of the locutions that come from a fascist force. It's all what serves our purpose. So they blame Biden with no evidence whatsoever. And Lester Holt, a respected member of the media, gets an interview with the president of the United States, who's finally raising the alarm. I don't mean finally like he didn't do it in 2022 and like he didn't do it some in 2020. But that is the job of the Democratic campaign in here, is it needs to be good enough, powerful enough, impactful enough to save for all of us the democratic institutions that, flawed though they may be, have been the source of so many blessings for so many generations of Americans, and that we are in danger of losing. So no, we don't need to dial the rhetoric down and pretend that there's nothing about Donald Trump that should outrage us Americans. We need the outrage dialed up, not into violence, but into complete rejection, repudiation, and drive this fascist force back into the interstices, the distant crevices in the American body politic, where it used to be for so long with the John Birch Society and the Ku Klux Klan. Now they're up. They're part of a force that threatens to take over the country with catastrophic results for the United States and for the world. We need to dial the rhetoric up. Thanks. And if you like the discourse you find here, please like, subscribe, follow, send links to this or whatever you find worthy to people you know who might appreciate it. My purpose here is to get a bigger story out into the world more successfully than I have so far. With that book, got a full-page review in the New York Times, but that was 40 years ago, and nobody's refuted the big idea that has. I'll be back to be articulating that big idea in a series that I intend to be doing in the days ahead. Also, if you want to see how some of these big ideas and these more immediate American crisis versions of our civilizational challenge, go to my website where I've worked using the craft that I'm much better at than this video stuff. The one I was trained in that I've practiced for more than, almost 60 years, I guess. And a betterhumanstory.org is the place to find it. Thanks. I'm going to be back soon to say something about, I think the title will be, Let's Not Make Kamala the Automatic Alternative. There might be a better title. I'll be back soon.